Do you like comic books?
Yeah, I used to when I was.
Who's your favorite superhero?
You know, I don't pay close attention to it. I did have a certain sort of fondness for Spiderman back when I was a teenager.
Why did you like him so much?
I don't know, because he was a teenager, and the whole narrative is all about, you know, this kid with magical powers who nonetheless has all the same problems with his, you know, teachers, with his boss, with his girlfriend, etc.
He struck me as one of the most tormented of the superheroes.
Of course.
But I also feel like I could relate to him because I thought if there was any superpower I could get, much easier to just let a spider bite me.
Right. You know, it's interesting. The superpowers. What's interesting about superheroes in general, and I haven't followed, you know, the most recent wave of it very much, but they all, or most of the classic ones, all have a sort of, you know, patience, forbearance. You don't see most superheroes engaging in preventive strikes or preemptive strikes. It's always the bad guys.
They're reactive.
They're reactive. They are slow to anger. They always win in the end, of course, right? That's part of the narrative, but they are never the ones who strike first. They would prefer not to have to deal with the problem, but eventually they find they have to if they take a deep breath and go to work. And I think there's something of a larger lesson in that you know, sort of prevailing narrative.
Well, there's a lot of talk about America being a global policewoman, and kind of trying to save the world, and I wonder about the superhero analogy. Is sort of saving the world from evil, saving us from evil, protecting us from evil. Have we picked the wrong? Should we be focused on Spider-Man? Have we picked the wrong superhero? Incredible Hulk sort of comes to mind when I think of, you know, a guy who gets disproportionately angry and just leaves devastation in his wake. What kind of model should we have?
Well, I'd say two things. One is evil is not something, in my view, that you can eliminate, right? That human beings are complicated, and some of them are going to do things that we regard as evil. And so to set as our objective the elimination of evil in the world is to guarantee failure, because I think that's an impossible goal.
Okay.
Secondly, I think if you look at recent American foreign policy, we have been insufficiently humble about our ability to manage politics in parts of the world that we don't understand very well, and where our vital interests are in fact not fully engaged. So we have ambitions, we want to get rid of bad guys, we want to make the world safe for whatever, but we don't necessarily want to invest a lot of money in it. We certainly don't want to invest a lot of lives in it. But we simultaneously have a very ambitious agenda to rid the world of evil, but we want to do that all on the cheap. And the results, I think, kind of speak for themselves. Other thing is, we got to recognize that most parts of the world are probably going to be better off managing themselves than being run by Washington, D.C. We don't have a formal empire, but for many years we've really tried to shape events in almost every corner of the world. And sometimes we can do that reasonably effectively if we have sort of realistic goals and we use a rather gentle touch. But I think the last 20 years have taught us that, you know, trying to coerce or compel the rest of the world into sort of fitting into our model just generates enormous resistance and doesn't produce the outcomes we want.